other thing that I saw come through during the week is this artificial intelligence technology that can write its own code, own computer code. And it says the byline is AI can now write its own computer code. That's good news for humans.
How?
But guys, can I be honest with you?
On
Like,
so many levels.
but can I be honest with you guys? Like, your basically take on this whole AI development. I know that you know, because you're involved in the industry, that a lot of it is hot air. But let's just say some of it is implemented.
Well,
Some of it on some level is implemented. Like, jobs in the future are going to become scarce, right? That's
what
where
for
we
programmers? For programmers?
No, like for everyone.
For everyone, yeah.
Would
No,
that?
we're
No?
just going to have jobs we don't know about today.
Yeah.
So do you think we're going to
Think
have?
about a lot of the IT jobs today didn't exist 20 years ago.
Yeah,
That's
no,
true.
it's
It's just going to evolve.
That's true. No, and I think it's not only limited to this kind of tech industry. I mean, there are services, products that will be created that other people will use to generate money, and one would be YouTube. I mean, when YouTube came out, people weren't saying, "Oh, this is a new career for me. This is how I'm going to be able to make money. I'm going to become an influencer, and I'm going to have 3 million views, and I'm going to make a living off
content
creation." Yeah. So, those were the, like, to do that, you had to be like a cable TV station or so. Yeah, definitely. I think there are going to be new careers or new jobs or new things that people are going to be able to do. I think we had this conversation the other day about like automated vehicles on mines and replacing those people. Didn't we have a conversation and saying, okay, well, what's going to happen to those guys? These people I think I was saying, okay, well, then it's a social responsibility by the company. It's implementing these sort of disruptive technologies to then re-skill their people to do other jobs in the business. And you can have the argument, well, okay, not everyone's equipped to do that. They might not have the education background or that kind of thing for you to be able to reskill them into something like that. Look, I think it's I suppose, put it this way, I don't think it's a new problem, because I think every advancement in something, the Industrial Revolution or now the Information Revolution or whatever it is, always displaces some people. Like, think about farming. Like, you bring in automated harvesters and planters and all that kind of stuff, and you're going, well, you've just replaced all these people that used to plant and pick all the fruit and all that kind of stuff. Okay, but I mean, the reality is that they can be reskilled and do something else. I know not everyone can be, but I would hope that from a social responsibility point of view, that companies that are in the position to implement these technologies will make an effort to reskill these people.
So I'm curious, Lester, what's your take? I mean, you live in a slightly different world. You live
First world country.
You live in UK. You live in UK, right? So, like, how do you see this from where you're sitting?
Yes, we are going to see a lot more of this. The Internet of Things and AI, together, we're still seeing how these technologies can work together to make our lives easier. And there is a consequence to that. And yes, we will have an easier life and a more automated life. But yeah, we are going to see a lot of changes. The self-driving cars is going to be interesting. I mentioned last week how we're short of drivers. We can't get our goods from one side of the country to the other. And everyone's going, all these drivers are going to lose their job. We don't have enough already. So it's going to be a while before it has an impact. But when it does, it's going to be a gradual thing. Yes, there's new tech that's advertised on a regular basis, which makes our lives easier. But it's introduced. It's not necessarily adopted straight away. It's a gradual thing. People are very finicky. Don't trust something they don't understand. So it takes a while for it to warm up. The technologies behind cell phones, when that came out, everyone was like, "Oh, that's cool." But really, did we jump on it? Oh, it was expensive. The quality wasn't that great. So over time, it just gets better. You know, just looking at the mining industry, I was just thinking when you were talking about it. Yeah, so all these heavy-duty underground machines that we use to manipulate the minerals that we have in the earth. Yeah, they have drivers, and theoretically, if these become automated machines, they'll be far more precise. It's less risky to life, less accidents, and that's what the mines want. They don't want people dying. That's bad press, and they want an efficient, safe environment. So the drivers we may not have jobs for drivers for those machines. However, they still break down. You know, they are electrically driven in many cases. Those cables still get run over or get damaged. We still need the same fitters and electricians that we have today, and we will do for some time. And those drivers can be repurposed as and reskilled. I think overall the business is happy because they have a far more efficient and safer environment, and the outputs could be bigger and better. And I don't think it changes their workforce numbers, that is. So it's going to take a while for any of these little things really to take hold, and everyone goes, "It's fantastic," but we're not early adopters by nature.
Yeah. But from your perspective, right? So if this change is going to happen, even on a gradual level, do you think that will lead to the change in education system in terms of education system sort of like realigning to bring in these new skills on board?
I think it's imperative that they do. I think creative thinking is probably going to be a more sought after skill than a technical like academic ability.
Okay, that's a really good point. But like, how would you define creativity?
Well, I suppose creativity is the ability to take a problem and find a new solution for it.
Okay.
I suppose creativity has got many definitions, but I would say it's the ability to think differently, out of the box, or lateral thinking, I suppose is terminology that has been used in the past. And I mean, you know, I was thinking about it the other day. We talk about old movies and all that. Think about previous thought leaders. Yeah. So like in the 90s, like when I first started working, you know, you would go to a management training course and they would be like, okay, you know, these are books that you should read. You need to read Stephen Covey's 7 Habits by Highly Effective People. And you need to read Lateral Thinking and the 6 Thinking Hats by Edward de Bono. Right?
Did you also read those?
They ring bells. Yeah.
They ring bells.
Okay, so you remember those.
But I'll tell you what I find very interesting about this is that their concepts get regurgitated into a new way of thinking. So I was thinking, been listening to some podcasts where they're talking about consciousness and the brain and how the brain works and and you know all the stuff that goes, and they go down to the quantum mechanics and the biology and all that kind of stuff at the cell level. But they're talking about creativity in a lot of these kind of, conversations. And the things that I hear, I say, oh, yeah, you know, that makes, because, you know, often when you hear these things, you say, oh, okay, that makes sense. You know, like, okay, I understand that can be true because, like, at some level, you've got an understanding that that's the way it works. But then when I hear these guys talking, it sounds like they're saying something new, but I'm saying, but hang on a second. That's what Stephen Covey used to say. Wait, hang on a second. That's what Edward de Bono used to say. I mean, have you heard of Edward de Bono?
No. But you're seeing this like silver thread running through the conversations.
Well, Edward de Bono, what I'm saying is that the whole idea of creativity and its impact on the world is not a new thing, right? But the conversation has recently changed, not changed, but I'm hearing more and more people talking about creativity, and that's the way that the world's going to be going because of the sort of like automation and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, you're not going to need as many doctors and as many lawyers and as many mechanical engineers and all that kind of stuff because a lot of the stuff can be automated now through AI and software and, models and all that kind of stuff. That all of a sudden the sort of like creative someone with creative ability is a person that's going to succeed in the future.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of jobs that are going to succeed. And if you look at what's happening, and we're talking about YouTube and content creators, and what are these people doing? They're being creative. People that are
there's some amazing talent. Like you can see, it's like very often, because it's like it's a relatively new industry. I know it's like 10 years down the line, we're saying it's a relatively new industry, but it's a relatively new industry in the context of, I don't know, the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's no formal training for it. I mean, these are guys that are figuring out by themselves what works, what doesn't.
Yeah.
No,
it's true.
Okay, take a step back. I mean, when we were going to school, Andrew and I, the guidance counselor and all the stuff was available to then was of no relevance to what we've ended up doing. So the schooling system then just becomes a fundamental baseline knowledge around reading and writing and arithmetic and general sciences and general knowledge, so that you can build on that when you start focusing. I think the question then becomes more, how do we identify early enough what characteristics this individual has and what is of interest to them, and how can we hone their skills, rather than wait perhaps until it's too late, because you get a lot of 17, 18-year-olds who go, why am I doing this stuff? It's of no interest to me. I don't see how I'm going to use it in life. I'm just wasting 2 years of my life. Yeah. Can we not get more focused earlier on the things that do interest me? Well, I think we'll start seeing a bit more evolution on that front.
Yeah, but I mean, think about it now. We've realized that, there are a couple of revelations. Revelations that
I have a reservation.
Like starting to wear off. I need another cup of coffee. There are quite a few things that we've now, in the last, say, 10 or 15 years, have learned about the brain that we previously thought wasn't possible. So neuroplasticity is one of the things that they've discovered. Okay, and what that is they thought that you got to a certain age, like 25 or 30, and your brain stopped growing and changing and whatever, and they were thought, you get to that and that's it. Your brain doesn't create new neural pathways and all that kind of stuff. Now they've since realized that there is this thing called neuroplasticity, which means that you can learn a new skill and all that kind of stuff. So they say when you get to a certain age, there's certain activities that you can do that can enhance your neuroplasticity. And one of them would be, say, like learning to play an instrument or learning a new language. Now, traditionally, those kind of skills, you would have thought, well, you had to start early. Like you had to learn to play an instrument when you were 10 or 12, or you had to learn a new language. To learn a new language, you had to be 5 or 6 or that kind of thing. And there are some people that learn new languages, but generally you thought that, well, those were kind of skills that you had to do early in life because of the fact that you had this limitation with your brain that after a certain age you can't learn new skills broadly, right? But now they've learned that that's not the case, right? So like in your 30s or 40s, you can go and have a complete career change, become a YouTuber, or become this creative person, learn a new instrument, learn a new language, learn a new skill. I mean, there are people, like you hear of people that like in their 50s decided, okay, they're going to go back to varsity. And then for the next 5 or 10 years, and at the age of 60, they finished their PhD. That was traditionally the kind of thing that you thought that you had to do when you were in your 20s.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't have the ability to do it later in life, probably because we're living longer and all that kind of stuff. But, where I'm going with that conversation is, right, at the school level, should we not rather be giving the people the tools and the skills to go and, like tenacity as an example, as a life skill, that failure is okay, that that you can try things and fail and try something else and get up and whatever. Whereas like at school we were just taught academic stuff, maths, science, whatever. What's to say, like if you change the schooling system completely and you only taught them life skills, whether it's like these, like, what's the right word that I'm trying for, like social skills, being able to interact and have relationships and like the kind of things that we, like in our 30s and 40s, we go to a psychologist and we try and unpack all the shit that's happened in our lives or whatever. You know, and then you realize, okay, you develop these skills on how to cope with life and, you know, whatever it is.
But you had to figure out by yourself.
Yeah,
right?
well, you had to figure out and you had to hit rock bottom and then you had to go get some help. Imagine if you were given those skills when you were in your teens, right? And then when you get to your 20s and your 30s, you then start finding out the things that interest you and then go and learn.
Is it not too heavy for a teenager, though?
Well,
I mean, you're already going through changes. You're already coming to terms with different facets of your life, and your hormones are changing, your emotions are changing, you're adapting as you grow. Is it not an overload? I just
no.
The other part of this. The other part of this is it used to be society that used to teach you how to cope on the softer skills, on the emotional side, the psychological.
Your parents would teach you.
Your community, your
church.
Your church, yeah, all of those things. But
there's
now
a lot of support structures in place,
exactly.
I don't think they were
anymore.
I don't think they were good enough.
I don't think so either.
Like
I think that was even before our time.
No, but I mean, what I'm trying to say is the kind of skill, the kind of things that you learn by bashing your head in life, right? You can think back, you know, if only someone had taught me this kind of stuff when I was younger, that maybe I would have made different decisions in life. I wouldn't have got stuck in a job that I didn't like. I went and studied for 3 or 4 years for a career that, you know, I didn't really want to do. I didn't know what to do when I left school. And, you know, why not change that and make it more about creating the creative skills, teaching people about creativity and lateral thinking and doing lots of those kind of activities to enhance that. And then when they go out into the world and then they can start playing with stuff. Okay, do I want to be an architect? Do I want to be an artist? Do I want to be a YouTuber? Do I want to become a computer programmer? And then study. Like maybe, let's say you just decided to start studying at 30 and you went and did your first degree at 30.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's the right way. I'm not saying. I'm just asking because Lester brought it up. Is the school system set up for preparing people for the future? I don't think so. Like if I think about my eldest daughter who was in high school and she's at a good school but it's all academic. You know, like you got to get the marks. You got to do maths and science and you know that kind of thing. Where's the soft skills? Where's the you know, teaching people to be assertive and teaching people to be creative and I don't know. I just like if I think back for me, I was like just like you were in this box. It was like the academic box, and you had to go to school and you had to go and study after school, and then you had to go get a job. Right? I wish I could. You know, I don't have many regrets, but I just wish I could turn the dial back on that, turn the clock back on that, and just redo it in a different way.
Okay, Lester, and on your side,
I'm not talking anymore. I've got
what's your thoughts about that?
No, he's right. We're conditioned in a certain way, and this is part of history, and that's the culture at the time. Is you will go to school and you'll be the best at what you do. You would take the tough subjects because they will help you in the future without even thinking about the future. You will be the top of your class. You will go out, you will go to university, you'll be the best at that. You will then go and get a job, and it will be the best job, and you will do your best at everything. That is the society that we grew up in.
Yeah.
And those pressures are there from an early age. And that's a good thing. You need that sort of push to try and excel and be the best you can be. But if it's only focusing on academic stuff, we've missed a point, because then we become socially inept. And I think that's where we have people, you know, kids suffering with stress because they're under all this pressure to excel and succeed, and they can't. They're burning themselves out.
And I guess that's what basically driving a lot of like young teenagers towards, you know, drug addiction and alcohol abuse and substance
or
abuse
people
issues.
just give up and just go, you know what, I can't be bothered with this, and I don't know what I'm going to do, but I just know this is not right. But there's not really a support structure for that, because the only structure that there was, and possibly still is your home life, your community, your friends, everything reinforces the fact that we're here to learn the norm, academics, be the best, pressure. It's reinforced.
So my question is, do you think, let's just call it technological revolution that we're going through, right? Do you think it's going to alleviate the problem or make it worse?
I don't think that's going to make a difference. I think what's going to make a difference is people like the bearded Fenn who have children. He doesn't want them to go through what he went through. He knows what he wanted back in the day that he missed. He's now going to make a change to his environment, make sure his children are better supported.
Yeah.
So they are better able to cope and stay. Yes, of course, there's going to be teenage angst, and that doesn't go away. But you're steering, and it's a different type of support structure.
Yeah.
That's the point that I think we're trying to get to, is how it's a different environment, regardless of the technology around us. Yeah. But if you are nurtured in a different way, you're able then to be more creative, perhaps.
Yeah.
Not everybody's creative, but if just doing academic pressure through all those years of learning, you kind of, unless you took art, you kind of strangled. You can't be creative, because that's not what you're supposed to do.
And I think also the perception that being creative is about being an artist, about being a painter, or about being a musician.
Yeah.
Creativity is not that. Creativity, you use creativity every day of your life.
Yep.
You're faced with a problem, you've got to come with a solution, and you come up with a solution, right? Yep. That's creative thinking. But a lot of the time our brains are in this like sort of pattern kind of thing. So in other words, we're running on autopilot, our subconscious, our habits, and all that kind of stuff. We're running on that 90% of the time.
Yep.
It's an effort. And the reason why you do that is because your brain is trying to conserve energy.
Yeah.
I mean, like the typical thing, like when you've really been working and thinking and wrecking a problem and everything, yes, by the end of the day, you've whacked.
Yeah.
And the reason is because you're consuming more energy and that kind of stuff. And your brain naturally wants to run on autopilot because it requires less energy to do that, right? And creativity is trying to break that cycle. Because, you know, the thing is that we pattern orientated, right? So when we're faced with a particular problem, the first thing that we rely on is our experience. Like, you know what I mean? And the way that you look at something is through the lens of the experience that you've had. It's only really when you get to a situation where you can't sort something out with your experience that you now have to take a step back and say, okay, I need to think of this in a different way. And that's when you've now got to turn your creative brain on. And I think a lot of the time we don't know how to do that.
And also another thing to keep in mind is that in a lot of the cases, like everyone will come up with a slightly different solution to the same problem.
Well, and that's what should be encouraged. In my view.
Yep.
I mean, like when you're in these creative sessions where they brainstorming. You know, the thing is, like, what do you do? I think one of the best techniques is to say, hey, listen, let's come up with the worst idea that we can come up with. Because you create an environment where people can come up with the weirdest and wackiest. Because a lot of time especially when you're in a group setting, people are a little bit reluctant to put out an idea there because, it might be stupid. People,
and then what are judged,
Yeah, what are people going to think of me? And maybe that's the So what you do is you create a platform and say, hey, listen, let's come up with the weirdest and wackiest, the worst ideas. Let's see who can come up with the worst idea on how to fix this problem. Yeah. So what you're doing is you're actually allowing people the goal is to come up with the worst idea.
Yeah.
Right. So
you can't be judged.
Yeah, you can't be judged because that was and I mean, that's one of the ways of trying to break that sort of thinking. And anyway, but I do think that, and you know what? I am my own worst enemy. Lester alluded to the fact that, hey, I'm going to try and teach my kids to think. Hey, can you see that? Right? And I bought this book many, many years ago, and I don't think I've actually ever read it.
You serious?
Yeah.
But you moved out.
My intentions were good. My intentions were good.
Your intentions were there.
Yeah. So this is Edward de Bono.
It's the thought that counts.
It's the thought.
So
Excuse the pun. Eh?
Can I tell you guys about my experience, right? So when I came to South Africa, I finished school, and then basically based on my at that time knowledge and skill sets, I was like, I'm gonna go do BSc in computer science. It's like I didn't even consider anything else, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna.
Why? Was that because everybody was getting into computer science, and that was?
I was really good at it. I was like, okay, let me leverage on my strong points. I was really good with analytical stuff, and it's like, and at that time, career counselors like, no, dude, you gotta go into this, you know. And then I was like, okay, let me go into this, and finished my degree. Went to work for one of the big South African software companies. Spent about 3 years there. Maybe 3.5. Then I was like, this is not for me, man. Like, I can't do this. Like, this is like killing me, man. I can't do this for the next like five, not even a year. And then I went back to university, did my second degree. But it was really hard at that
Lucky
stage.
you had an opportunity to go and study, to be able to change.
Yeah. And I was very, very like lucky, because it's like, a lot of my friends at that stage were saying, it's like, oh, dude, like, you have a great job. Like, why do you like want to like go and spend another like 4 years of your life in university? And I was like, thinking about it, like,
I love the student life.
Besides that, it's like, you know, I can actually do it. You know, it's like, what are the chances I can actually do it? I can actually go do something completely different.